This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Agin Erev Shabbos Shabbos, I would like to share with you two very important diukim which will bring out a critical and fundamental idea about the Kiyar, the basin, with which the Kohanim would wash their hands and feet. In this week's Parsha, Parshas Pekudei, the Torah tells us about the setting up of the Mishkan in Perek Mem, Pasuk Yud Ches. Vayakhel Moshe es ha-Mishkan. Moshe sets up the Mishkan. Vayakhel is a verb. The Mishkan is a noun. Vayikach vayitein es ha'edos. Verb. Vayikach vayitein es ha'edos. The testimony. Noun. Vayave es ha'arein. Ha'arein. He brought. Verb. Es ha'arein. Noun. Vayitein es ha'shulchan. He placed the shulchan. Vayasem es ha-menorah. Vayasem es mizbach hazahav. Vayasem es masach ha-pesach la-mishkan. Time after time after time. Verb. Noun. All of a sudden, we get up to Pasuk Chav Tes. Ve'es mizbach ha'olah sam pesach mishkan oyel moed. And the noun, the mizbach ha'olah, they placed at the opening of the mishkan of the oyel moed. Why does the Torah switch the sequence? Until now, it's always verb and then noun. Comes Pasuk Chav Tes, ve'es mizbach ha'olah, sam, the noun, and then the verb. Haloi davar hu, this is a question that is raised by the Netziv. Well, let us answer with another question. In the very next pasuk, the pasuk says, "Vayasem es ha-kiyar bein oyel moed uvein ha-mizbeach." They placed the kiyar between the oyel moed and the mizbeach. And there's a very big question over here. Think about the order that the Torah is going in. It talks about the arayin, then it talks about the shulchan, then it talks about the menorah. That means it's going from in out. It's moving outward. First the arayin, shulchan and the menorah. Then Mizbeach HaKetoras, Mizbeach HaZahav, and the Pesach, the Masach HaPesach, then the Mizbeach HaOlah, and then back to the Kiyar. The Kiyar is in between the Mizbeach HaOlah and the Pesach HaOyel Moed. The Kiyar is much more in than the Mizbeach. Why does it first speak about the Mizbeach and then the Kiyar? Why, when it comes to the Kiyar, does the Torah switch the order? Does the Torah first mention the Mizbeach HaOlah, and then the Torah mentions the Kiyar? And this is a question that is raised by the Brisker of the Griz. And in response to this question, the Griz cites his father, Rabbi Chaim Brisker, who learns from here and makes a diuk from a pasuk in Kisisa and a pasuk in this week's Parsha. The Torah says in Kisisa, Perek Lamed, pasuk Yud Ches, V'yasisa Kiyar nechoshes, V'nasata oisai, where do you put it? Bein oyel moed uvein ha-mizbeach. Between the oyel moed and the mizbeach. Meaning, the Kiyar is not just in that space, it has to be between the oyel moed and the Mizbeach. Meaning, if the Mizbeach is not there, you can't place the Kiyar there. The Mizbeach is not just, oh, by the way, put the Kiyar in between those two areas. It's more than that. The Mizbeach must physically be there. If the Mizbeach is not there, you can't put the Kiyar in its place. The place of the Kiyar is the space in between the oyel moed and the Mizbeach. Meaning you must first place the Mizbeach and only then put the Kiyar. Therefore, says the Brisker of, that is why the Torah switches the order. Yes, it's going from in, out. And yes, the Kiyar is more in than the Mizbeach is, but it has to say the Mizbeach before the Kiyar. Because the Mizbeach physically must be there before you put the Kiyar down. That's mashma in this week's Parsha as well. Because it says, the Eis Mizbach HaOlah Sam Pesach Mishkan, place the Mizbeach HaOlah there, and then Vayasem es ha-Kiyar. Only then could you place the Kiyar. If you don't have the Mizbeach there, you can place the Kiyar. As the pasuk says, because the Kiyar has to be Vayasem es ha-Kiyar bein oyel moed uvein ha-Mizbeach. So, it's brought in the journal Pa'amei Yaakov, the following Chidush, based on Rabbi Chaim Brisker, and this is quoted in the Sefer V'Shalom Lo Yachzar, based on Rabbi Chaim, that the Kiyar has to be between the oyel moed and the Mizbeach. So when it comes to the placing of the Mizbeach there at that time, it's not that the Mizbeach has to be placed there for its own inherent purpose. It's placed there as an introduction and a setup for the Kiyar. All the other items have to be placed in their place for themselves. But when it comes to the Mizbeach, it's placed there incidentally for the Kiyar, as a setup for the Kiyar. Therefore, all the other Kalim, it says, Vayasem, Vayasem, Vayasem. But when it comes to the Mizbeach is not there for the Mizbeach. The Mizbeach is there as a setup for the place of the Kiyar. Therefore, by the Mizbeach Ha'ila, it switches, Ve'es Mizbeach Ha'ila, Sam Pesach Ha'yomayid. First, the Mizbeach Ha'ila, and it's placed there. And why is it placed there? Because Vayasem es HaKiyar. The Torah changes the order to indicate that here, the placement on the Mizbeach is a setup for the correct placement of the Kiyar, as Rav Chaim Brisker derives, both from Kisisa and this week's Parsha, so now we understand the correct placement of the Kiyar is not just in that area, but the Mizbeach must be there. So when it comes to the Kiyar, it's sort of backward. First the Mizbeach and then the Kiyar. Interestingly, because the Kiyar is made out of the mirrors that the women donated. So when you're dealing with mirrors, things are always backward. Rabbi say, Agen Erev Shabbos.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.